So let's run the program and let's view the actual results. So let me go through the results with you so you can actually see how this works. So in the first attempt, it's trying this IP address with the user test1 and the password test. And the result that's shown is 530 login or password incorrect. Then it goes with test1 and password test1. Then it's trying password test2 against user test1 again. And the result is being printed because of this particular line here. It's printing the value returned by data. And if you notice in the last line, it tells us the IP address with the user test1 and password test3 has successfully logged in with this particular line. But what we can now do is filter out our results only for the successful login. To do that, we need to modify the code with an if statement. To do that, we need to change the code slightly, not so much, but just a little bit to make sure that we then determine which line has 230 listed in it. So to do that, we go to the last line in the code and remove the print word. And what we want to do is in its place, we want to type in result equals. What we're now doing is instead of printing it to the screen, we're storing this result in this variable. Now I also have if 230 is contained in result, print password found and the actual password. So if we run the program now, you will see that in the last line, it's tried all the attempts and then found the password found is test3. So as it had found 230 in the actual result, it then printed the password value for us. The information I've shared with you in this particular brute force password cracking program is strictly for information purposes only. I've used this in a controlled environment, but wanted to show you why a hacker would create their own brute force password cracking system. Why would anyone want to do that? Well, basically, if they wanted to scan thousands or 10,000s of IP addresses, they could use the first part of the program to basically scan multiple IP addresses to find which had port 21 and which ports were open. And then based only on those particular ports, run the second part of the program, which basically used a password dictionary to then scroll through and find out which users and passwords were available. So a hacker has a very great amount of flexibility with writing their own programs. And the other reason is that if a program is custom written, it's very hard for any system to flag that it's a copy of a certain program. It's basically written from scratch. It's a unique program, so may be perceived as a real valid program rather than something that is malicious, as we've shown, because this basically is allowing a hacker to scroll through a FTP site using multiple usernames and passwords to log in and test whether there is a connection. And once a connection has been made, it allows the hacker to basically access a network when they shouldn't have had access to that specific network. So in this lesson, we've looked at how to create our very own brute force password cracking program. We've looked at socket programming. We've looked at how to connect to an FTP site and then test out different usernames and passwords. Again, this is strictly for informational use only. There are huge amounts of risks if you do this on a public network. This exercise has been performed in a controlled environment and strictly for demonstration purposes only. Be very careful when creating these types of programs.